Hi, I'm Anton.
Hi, I'm Vikesh, and we're reviewing Frankenstein today.
Yes. Frankenstein is one of the most anticipated films of the year. Probably one of Netflix's also biggest releases. It's directed by Guillermo del Toro, who you might know from Shape of Water and Pan's Labyrinth. He himself said that this was the film he always wanted to make. And in fact, in all of his previous films, you can see those bits and pieces of Frankenstein, whether it's themes, whether it's monsters that also come through as well. And the film stars Jacob Elordi, Oscar Isaac, Christoph Waltz, and Mia Goth. And it was released for a very limited run in some select screens and then
Yes, in
quickly jumped
fact,
to Netflix.
we were lucky enough to watch it
Yeah,
on a big
exactly.
screen, like a week before it was released on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad we did because it was an experience, a real big cinematic experience. And I wonder whether it would have been the effect would have been the same at home, but I highly, highly doubt it.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, especially the way a lot of people sometimes might watch Netflix on like a laptop or a phone, it's definitely
mm,
not going to have the same impact as watching it, at a cinema. So that's a bit of a shame that all of these Netflix films either are going straight to Netflix or barely get a theatrical release. I don't even know if it was out in Malta, to be fair, Frankenstein.
no, no, it's true. I don't even think so. And I wonder, with this new acquisition of Warner Bros.
Yeah.
Of Netflix of Warner Bros. I wonder what's gonna happen if we're gonna have a loss of these big, cinematic things that go straight into streaming, and we lose that community kind of feeling of going to watch a film like this.
Yeah.
But let's hope for the best. We'll see.
Indeed.
um, indeed. And just adding to this thing, I'll start with the positive things
Sure.
about the film because it's linked to this as well. Which is I think one of the strongest things about the film is the fact that visually it is absolutely stunning. It is very striking, the production design. It just takes your breath away. I had so many moments where I had goosebumps watching the film. And I think, that really carried it for me in many ways. So I thought that was really, really stunning.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll definitely think it's one of the top contenders at the Oscars to win these kind of technical awards like production design and costumes. I mean, the
Costume.
costumes
Yeah.
told a lot in the narrative of the story as well. They really played an important part.
Yeah.
The amount of detail and care and love that went into all those things really, really shone through in the final product for sure. So
Yeah.
I thought that was one of my strengths. And I think another strength that I found in the film also was Jacob Elordi's performance. So to me, I thought he was the absolute standout in the film, and I thought considering the whole, drama behind the scenes, which was that Andrew Garfield dropped out last minute. And basically Jacob Elordi only had 2 weeks. He found out 2 weeks before he started shooting. So it's very impressive physically, his physical performance, and also the gentility in which he played the monster. So I thought
Yeah.
that those two things kind of really stood out to me. What
Yeah.
about you? What were your strengths, Anton?
I think same as you. I think from the get-go, the production, whether it's the sets, whether it's the costumes, the props, everything has such a distinct style, which is very Guillermo del Toro. It's very reminiscent of
Mhm,
something like Crimson Peak, if you've watched that, of Pan's Labyrinth as well, Shape of Water. You're still seeing all of these little bits and pieces coming in. It's very
mhm.
distinctly his. Even you and I, like when we saw there's a coffin at a point which popped up, and we looked at
Yes.
each other like these coffins are so cool. They look really, really cool.
Yes,
Um,
yeah.
and I also do remember this really cool shot because when towards the beginning where Charles Dance, who plays Victor's father, shows up, and Victor's there with his mother, who is also played by Mia Goth, and she's wearing this incredible red costume with this veil that flows in the wind and sort of covers her face and gives her this very like ethereal look. It's like is she even there? It creates this really cool aesthetic. And I think that's consistent throughout the film. It looks
Yes.
fantastic. Even when it comes to like the practical effects of it, even with the monster as well, it's got a very distinct look. Even for the monster itself, like it doesn't look anything like what we've had before in previous film versions of Frankenstein. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
it's a completely different look and it works. I agree with you. I think Jacob Elordi is fantastic in it as well and really finds the humanity within the character, um, without either, because it's a fine line to thread between playing him sympathetically but still having that edge of danger, that sense of
Mm,
like there is something uneasy about him anyway,
yeah.
which I thought was great. I think in terms of the adaptation, it's actually quite a good adaptation of the book. I quite like the book
Mm-hmm.
itself. And so while there are a couple of minor changes here and there, I think for the most part, it's quite a good
Yes.
retelling of the story. So I really, really
Yes, for
enjoyed that.
sure. And I thought his focus was really very much on kind of, to put it bluntly, daddy issues and mommy issues, really.
Totally. I mean, even the
So,
fact that the love interest and the mom are played by the same actor,
yes,
the
yes,
milk,
yes,
which he constantly drinks even as an adult, which, is adding
yes.
another, layer to that as well.
Exactly, exactly. So, there's this whole idea of obviously his mother dying when when he was young, Victor's mother dying when he was young, and then obviously his dad never kind of approving of him, and then kind of those patterns being repeated with the monster.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and that comes in as well in the costuming. Again, we're talking about the costuming, we're talking about the multi-rolling that you spoke about, Anton. So the symbolism of the film was very, very, it wasn't subtle, but it was very
No,
effective, I would
yeah,
say. Um, which, made for, one of the strongest, the visual storytelling was very strong in the
mm,
film. Um, and
definitely.
I think then, shall we chat a little bit about what didn't quite work for
Yeah,
us?
yeah. Let's go with
Yes,
that. Let's go with that.
yes. Do you want to
Y-
start?
yeah, I'll kick this one off.
Yes.
I
Okay.
think. For me, I found it slightly superficial when it came to the themes that it was discussing. There's literally a point where Victor's brother turns to him and says, "You are the monster." Like, and I hate these things where it's clear enough. I think the film does a good job of telling us all these things without having to spell it out, right? Like,
Mhm,
it's
mhm,
there. We don't need
mhm.
these things. It might be something again. It's something that again, it's a Netflix film. Um, we know that also like the way Netflix does things, it panders to people who aren't necessarily focusing on what they're watching. So
Yeah,
sometimes they do
yeah,
intervene and ask for these sort of things in script. So that might not, it might be something that was injected in that way. It
yeah.
was a bit on the nose though in terms of
Yes.
of these sort of themes. And I think there is one thing about the adaptation I didn't like was that Victor's character, who isn't particularly likable in the book either, but in this he was even more despicable. I found him
Mhm.
quite off-putting. Even the fact
Yes.
that the film version changes. Mia Goth's character is not his bride; it's his brother's bride. Um,
Mm.
and the fact that he's, sexually interested in his brother's girlfriend the second he meets her it just adds to like this guy's kind of a dick. And
Yes,
that is
yes,
followed throughout. And I found him to have quite very few redeeming qualities, which again
yes. I
is
think, and
part of it.
and I think that is a combination of the writing and the performance as well.
Yeah,
So yes, so I think in the writing, but also Oscar Isaac's performance was very one note in my opinion in the film. It was very angry, it was very shouty, it was very constantly, this like angry tortured guy. And, I wish that there were some more layers in it. And again, that combining with the script skipped the most crucial years, which are the teenage years where you form your character. So this guy jumped from being a nice boy to then just being this crazy, like, you know, ambitious, overly ambitious and shouty guy. And I was like, it felt like it needed a little bit of, more nuance in
Yeah.
that, you
Yeah, and
know.
I think
Um,
also if we look at quite a lot of like horror that has been coming out recently, if you look at, Ari Aster and Robert Eggers and Jordan Peele, and while it's a different style, obviously, to this, but their themes, even if it's just Nosferatu, speaking of Robert Eggers, um, all the themes are explored in a bit more detail with more ambiguity. They feel a bit more grown up in a sense. This
mhm.
felt a bit too much like a kid's fairy tale in a sense.
Yes, yes, and obviously what didn't help it, I think again going back to the script, which was the thing I think which was the weakest about the film in my opinion, is the structure. So that made it feel even more childlike, this
Yeah,
narration structure telling us how characters felt, rather than living with them and allowing ourselves to feel that.
yeah,
And in fact, when that was over, when that was less of a thing, so in the second half of the film, where it was about the monster,
yeah,
and you have those moments of silence of him being in the house and kind of bonding with the old man, etc. All of that to me was the strongest part of the film because you're just seeing slowly this guy learning things, observing,
yeah,
and you're just living with the character rather than being told what to think or what to
yeah,
feel. And again, Guillermo del Toro clearly has a love for monsters versus humans. So as soon as he's focusing on the monster, there is a love and a beauty
yeah,
that is just remarkable. And that's when, we've been talking about all the flaws that the film has, but ultimately that completely won me over. Anton was with me and I could barely speak afterwards. I was so
yeah. So
moved.
true.
I was so moved by the film at the end of the day. So I had my
Yes,
critical
yes,
brain that in the first half I was like, "Oh, I'm not sure about these things." But then by the end, I just was completely moved by it.
yeah,
Because again, Guillermo del Toro is a massive softie, really. He's this, giant teddy bear who believes in the goodness of people and believes in forgiveness. And, especially during Christmas time and this time of year, everyone needs a little bit of that, I guess. Um, so there was something, beautiful and naive and childlike, as we said,
yeah,
which also was a negative thing, but also in this case was also a positive thing because it, captures that magical feeling that we all love. So yeah, I guess at the end it did win me over. And if someone would ask me whether they should watch the film, I'd say
yeah,
watch it
yeah,
because I was very moved in the
yeah.
end.
I think
Um,
like you, I think although it has a couple of issues, like we mentioned, it overcomes them, you know what I mean? And it's still worth watching. And I do still think back on certain elements of it or particular scenes and
yes,
I don't know, think about them or want to like watch it again. Like it comes up. It's one of those films that has an impact in that way.
yes. I mean, for me, one of the highlights was when he was carrying the bride down the stairs,
Yeah,
and that was one of the most those moments that will forever be ingrained in my brain. It was so beautiful.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, no, definitely so many strengths. Any concluding comments, Anton, on any elements or why people should check it out?
I think a lot of people who may not necessarily be that familiar with Frankenstein, the novel, the story behind it, because people just tend to think of the monster from the 30s film and stop at that. But I think if you're not familiar, you'll be in for quite a surprising story, I think, which you might not necessarily associate with the monster. I think a lot of people might be surprised as to what the story actually is. And I think at the same time, if you are a fan of the book, if you are familiar with it, then I think you'll enjoy the adaptation. Again, we're not, and I don't think things should be done, exactly as they would be on the page from a book. You need adaptation, and I think
Yeah.
this is a good one. It has some hiccups, like we mentioned, but ultimately it's definitely worth watching. If it was still in cinemas, I'd be like, absolutely want to watch in the cinema. If not, watch it on your biggest screen possible without looking at your phone.
Yes, yes, in the dark with like high,
Yeah,
like the sound full on, to really, really immerse yourself. And yes,
and piss off your
again,
neighbors.
exactly. Uh, and I think, there's just a beautiful presence that Guillermo del Toro brings to, the cinema. There is a lack of cynicism in his
Yeah,
filmmaking, which I think, it's a voice that is distinct because a lot of the films that even myself and Anton really enjoy are quite nihilistic, quite dark,
yeah,
quite, we this year amongst our favorite films we watched Begonia and we watched Eddington, which both have a very negative view of the world,
yeah.
don't really believe in the goodness of people at all. Um, while this was, a nice contrast
Yeah,
to all of that, and Guillermo is a really important presence, I think, in the cinematic world. And he seems like a lovely lovely human being as well, so you always want to root for him. So yes, ultimately I do recommend it. And also a film, if you have like older kids as well, it's a great family film.
yeah.
And I only say because there's a few moments of gore, that's why I say like some elder kids, but I really recommend it as a film that the whole family can go to the cinema, or not in this case, sorry, gather
The
around
living
watch
room.
on Netflix. Um and I could guarantee that the whole family would
Yeah,
enjoy it.
yeah.
So that's a really positive element. So thank you so much. This has been Vikesh and Anton for Criticarty. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.